Episode 8, Under the Bridge. Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
What was all that about? Why are you closed?
Hello, party people. Welcome to our show, Under the Bridge. It is March. I'm your host, Alan Sutterlin, a.k.a. Dubulous, and alongside me, as always, it's the one, the only, it's Matt Sybeldon.
How's it going, guys?
Also known as BearsFan092. How you doing, Matt? How's your month been?
It's been all right. Still just trying to kick this cold weather and getting ready for regionals. That's a big thing.
That is the big thing. That's the big event on tap. We will get into that pretty in detail later on in the show. We've got an awesome one on tap for you. The regionals preview. We'll also get into the Nugget Bridge Major that is just entering the top cut round. Now that was just posted today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We also have a new monthly Mon to give away with a trivia question. I don't want to spoil it, but I'll say it's a little tougher this time. You might actually have to put some thought and effort into answering this trivia question. So like I said, we got an awesome show on tap, so let's get things started off. But before we get to the regionals preview, I want to talk about some breaking news. This came out yesterday. The news posted on Nugget Bridge there about the VGC-14 Premier Challenges. Now, these are, we don't have all that much information about it now, but these are Premier Challenge events that are going to be going on between April 21st and June 23rd. A best finish limit of 2, and they will award championship points. So, Matt, an opportunity to earn some much-needed championship points for people trying to get the bye in the Nationals.
Yeah, this is really cool because it kind of introduces video game play at a local level, much like the card game currently has. So I do really like the idea where it's going. The one thing I'm slightly worried about is because it awards championship points and the distribution is a little bit sparse. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing announced in Pennsylvania yet. It could make a difference in terms of championship point tiebreakers at the end of the season, depending on, where you're located, but hopefully it doesn't come down to that.
Yeah, hopefully. I think, obviously it's a pilot program, so I think only a few, it says in the article here, only a few dozen tournament organizers will be allowed to run these events for this VGC-14 season. So, yeah, like you said, it's a pilot program, so they're going to be trying this out, and yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think for the long term, it's a step in the right direction, that's for sure. But in the short term, I'm just, I'm a little dubious about how these could swing the standings for that top 16, because the top 16 you get a bye in nationals, and we all know how important that is.
Yeah, and we saw last season that a couple of points can really ruin your day. Like we always point back to this, but Simon and Dewey from the Wi-Fi tournaments, we really don't want a repeat of that. So cross my fingers. Yeah,
so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think hopefully we don't have a lot of information, so it's hard to pass judgment now. But hopefully there are going to be a lot of events that are accessible to most everyone across the nation. So fingers crossed on that one. But like I said, we don't have a lot of information on that right now. I will say that Scott has a very good post in the thread there. That pretty much echoes our thoughts, but much more coherently, I would say, talking about the short-term and long-term ramifications of this announcement. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's going to be good for the game. So that's all we'll have to talk about that for now. Maybe we'll get into that as we get more information. So keep your eyes locked on Nugget Bridge for the latest updates on that. But I guess now we will get into what you probably came here for, and that is the regionals preview. All right, so the regionals dates this time around, we have on the regionals will be played on April 6th and April 13th for this set. So only 2 regionals dates this time. What do you think about that?
Really no real strong thoughts. I think it kind of prevents the whole travel effect to at least a smaller degree compared to the winter regionals, but overall I don't feel too strongly either way.
Yeah, I'm in the same kind of camp. Especially this is the last set of regionals here, so a lot of people either have already hit their best finish limit of 3 or are going to be hitting it with this set of regionals. So yeah, I don't think it's going to impact too much. But at the same time, if you only have one event under your belt, you can still hit up 2 sets of regionals here. So, like I said, April 6th and April 13th are the dates. There are 4 regionals on April 6th across the nation. The first one is in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. There's also one in Athens, Georgia, as well as in Kansas. I'm not sure exactly where in Kansas. Overland Park, Kansas, the Kansas regional there. First time having a regional in Kansas, I think.
Yeah, although they have had some in Missouri, which is pretty close nearby. Well, neighboring states anyway.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
in the Midwest, there nothing's really all that close, but
yeah, I can speak to that.
and then the last one on the 6th there is in Seattle, Washington. So a pretty good distribution of regionals there, I think.
Yeah,
North and Southeast, the Midwest, and a Western.
yeah. I mean, you do have your bases covered. Although, with the exception of Seattle, I mean, they are a little bit off base from the what I consider the major population centers. I mean, Athens is a bit off from Atlanta. Sturbridge is about an hour off from Boston, if I'm not mistaken. But Seattle is, that's a big center, and it's traditionally been a big Pokemon center. So, yeah, I'm not too upset with the distribution.
Yeah, those Seattle events are always some of the stronger events we see in the season. It's kind of funny. I guess they hit 3 of the 4 corners in the U.S. with Seattle, Massachusetts, and Georgia there, and then right in the middle in Kansas. So that's interesting. And then, of course, on the 13th, there will be a regional in Salt Lake City, Utah, as well as a regional in Madison, Wisconsin. And that will round up the events for the regionals. So getting down to the nitty gritty here. So on the last episode, the last regionals preview we did, we talked about threats to look out for if you were going to be attending a regional. We listed 10 of them. We'll just recap those real quick. They were Mega Kangaskhan, Smeargle, Mega Charizard Y, Mega Mawile, Rotom, Wash and Heat, Garchomp, Amoonguss, Tyranitar, Mega Manectric, and Salamence. I still think that list looks pretty good moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm not really willing to deviate from that list other than to add some new things like Aegislash, excuse me, and Gardevoir. One thing I really want to point out though is now that Pokebank's been out for a while, those Smeargles are definitely going to be a lot more common. And there's this awesome GIF between our Inanimate and Scott for their Nugget Bridge Major match, and all the Pokemon are asleep except for Smeargle, and they all stay asleep. And Smeargle gets a Moody boost. It's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
Goodness gracious! So Smeargle, yeah, of course it gets access to Dark Void with Pokebank being out, so it's just all that more annoying. I see them pop up on Battle Spot far too often for my liking. So
yeah, I would say that was definitely a very poor format choice, allowing that back in.
I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's Pokemon for you. But that's definitely something that you're going to be wanting to look out for, definitely more so than the last regional. But like you said, there were a couple of Pokemon that didn't make the list that I think as well are deserving of threats to look out for moving forward. And like you mentioned, they were Aegislash and Gardevoir. What can you tell me about Aegislash?
Yeah, so Aegislash is, wow, he's kind of a double-edged sword, if you pardon the pun.
Oh.
So he's got this ability called Stance Change, and if he attacks, he switches to his sword form or blade form, and he gets base 150 attacking stats, but base 60 defensive stats, where shield form is the other way around. It's also very slow, but it also has this fantastic typing, Ghost Steel, which is amazing this generation, would have been even more amazing last generation, but still, I'll take it. And you generally see it these days as a special attacker. Very common to see it run a substitute leftovers set. You'll also see some support moves with Wide Guard, and also has access to King Shield. So if you attack it with a physical contact move, and you make contact with the King Shield, it does no damage to Aegislash, excuse me, and you get a -2 to your attack. So it's a wild card. You got to be careful with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it used a lot as kind of a poor man's answer for Kangaskhan. Especially with King's Shield, Kangaskhan kind of has to worry about attacking into it. This is, of course, if Kangaskhan has Crunch, which not a lot do, but the opportunity to get that free -2 off, and the opportunity to switch between attacking and defense forms. You attack one turn, and because you're so slow, you more than likely move last, so you switch to attack form. And attack off of those base 150 attacking stats. And then you could just use King's Shield and go back into defense mode. Defense mode, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh callback.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But that's pretty much what it does. You attack last, and then you use King's Shield, and the very next turn you're back into defense mode, and you're pretty safe. So it's definitely a very interesting Pokemon. To be honest, it's not one that I thought would see a lot of use, just because of how slow it was, and having to deal with just the variability of it, I guess is the way to put it. But it is a very good Pokemon. I used it on my in-game team and loved it. So that's fun to use, and that typing is so good. That Ghost Steel.
One of the best typings, in my opinion.
It's fantastic, and it can take a lot of hits, and it can attack from both sides, like you said. But I have seen on Battle Spot, I've seen a lot more special attackers, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely the more common one these days.
But the other one that I wanted to talk about was Gardevoir, which is another Pokemon that is in the top 12 used in the special Battle Spot.
Yeah, Gardevoir is pretty cool. It's kind of funny how adding a fairy type suddenly makes your Pokemon really good. And also,
been preaching it all year. That fairy type is the most underrated type in Pokemon right now.
Well, now it's not. Now people know how good it is.
Yeah, I think it's the best type in Pokemon. But yeah, keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so Gardevoir is pretty cool because it has base 125 special attack. It's got an okay speed tier, enough to outrun Smeargle anyway. And on the Battle Spot, we tend to see choice sets. I believe the statistics say that Choice Specs is the most common item, with Choice Scarf trailing by about half that. Choice Scarf being able to Moonblast things like Garchomp into oblivion. So that's kind of fun. I'm not really sure how sold I am on Gardevoir personally, because its physical defense isn't all that great, even if you do invest in the bulk, although its special defense is something to be reckoned with. So I would say it's a good Pokemon, but make sure you know what you're doing. It's not something that you can easily plug and play.
Yeah, a lot of the Mega Evolutions are kind of like that. You could just stick them on a team and depend on them to be good. I think this one requires a lot more team support in order to be successful with it. And, to be honest, I just think that there's probably a better usage of your Mega Evolution spot.
Well, most Gardevoir actually aren't using the Mega form because it doesn't gain any bulk at all when it Mega Evolves.
Right, yeah. It just becomes more offensive.
Yeah, it's more common to see either a Citrus bulky set, Choice Specs, Choice Scarf. Those are the more common ones.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I've seen a lot more attacking ones, but you would know better. You play a lot more than I do. I just would have assumed that more people would gravitate towards using the Mega Evolution over a bulkier set. So that's interesting to me. Another Pokemon that I wanted to highlight just real quickly is Venusaur, which I think is very underrated. I'm kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit, but what can you tell me about Venusaur?
Okay, so I hate Venusaur with a passion. It's pretty bulky, even if you don't Mega Evolve it, or at least bulky enough. And it's that Poison type is actually super useful for it, since now it resists fairy moves. And what really drives me up the wall about it is that if you don't KO it, it will probably sleep powder you, and then now you're starting to flip coins and hoping that you wake up. And that's what I really don't like about Venusaur, and that's why it's a good Pokemon. It's bulky enough to dish out those sleep powders. In Sun, it's really fast. It's going to be like the fastest thing on the field if you get it up with like a Charizard. Um, and it hits decently hard, and it hits the right things in the metagame, namely Rotom Wash. So, yeah, excellent Pokemon.
It's a very good Pokemon. It's one that I definitely overlooked when I was first building my team for the Nugget Bridge Major, and I'll tell you what, after that first match, I had to reconsider my strategy quite a bit because Venusaur just ran all over me. It really can be a hassle if you don't have anything capable of dealing with it.
And
No,
and
go
we didn't
ahead.
even talk about Mega Venusaur. Okay, I mean, it gets like what, base 80 HP. That's from its standard form, and then it's like base 120 defense and special defense. So all of a sudden, this thing becomes this huge defensive behemoth, and it's basically neutral to ice and fire now. Ugh, it's impossible to take down unless you got the right moves for it.
And you can't even rely on neutralizing it with sleep moves unless you run something unreliable, aka anything that's not Spore, which is huge for it because it's pretty easy to neutralize bulky threats that way, I find, if you have if you have access to that on your team. But you can't do that against Venusaur.
Just Smeargle him.
Yeah, yeah. You could always count on Smeargle, but even then, only an 80% chance.
That's true.
So, but yeah, were there any other Pokemon that you wanted to highlight as major threats? I know that the metagame has kind of had a little bit more of a chance to develop since the first set of regionals. So,
there's some weird wild cards, but I really don't think we're going to see them here in the United States regionals. We kind of indirectly covered the Dragon Steel Fairy Core with Gardevoir, Aegislash, and Salamence. I guess the other thing you could talk about is like Pyroar being one of those like weird rogue fire types. But what you need to know is that it's faster than Garchomp, has decent special attack, and can overheat. Other than that, it's not all that special.
yeah, I can't say I'm too big of a fan of a Pyroar either, but it does have access to Hyper Voice, which is kind of nice. Being able to have access to a spread move like that. But I mean, I don't know. I just don't get the hype, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
But yeah, if you are listening to this and planning on going to a regional and don't know what to prepare for, I think we covered pretty much all of the major threats. I would maybe also throw Klefki in there, just because it can be pretty annoying if you don't know what it can do. Of course, it has access to Prankster. I think it's the only ability that it has access to.
I believe that is correct.
Actually. So if you see it, it's going to be very annoying because it's going to be using some priority moves. It's a good dual screener. It's a good safeguard swagger. And it could even attack a little bit with Foul Play, and Dazzling Gleam, of course, has access to Thunder Wave as well. Very good Pokemon. Other than that, I think that should cover most of the bases Pokemon-wise. But we're getting closer to Worlds here, so I want to talk a little bit about the players that are in contention, looking forward ahead to that world spot. Of course, we've already talked about it a little bit, but the top 16 in CP at the end of, well, I guess right before Nationals with the premier events. But the top 16 in CP right before Nationals earn a bye in Nationals, and that bye can be critical sometimes in determining tiebreakers and stuff like that. So I think earning a bye is crucial for a lot of these players if they want to qualify for Worlds. Would you agree?
I would say it's very useful. If you look back at Nationals of last year, I don't think the bye really affected the top four that were there. I believe did King of Mars have a bye? I want to say he didn't.
I want to say he did too, just because he's such a strong player.
But I mean, you can definitely go without, but it certainly helps. I mean, a free win's a free win.
Yeah, well, it just helps because it boosts your resistance because you start 1-0, you're playing people higher up the ladder sooner. So your resistance is just going to be that much better. And honestly, those few percentage points could be the difference between finishing, 15th and 18th, 16th and 17th, or whatever the bubble line may be. So yeah, I mean, it's crucial, I think, to finish in the top 16. So let's take a look at those players who are on the bubble. We're getting into the March Madness here a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, winners of regionals get 120 CP for win. Top 8 places are guaranteed 70 points. 16th place is currently at 170 points. That's Scott Glaza sitting there with that. So what do you think it'll take to qualify for a bye there? I was thinking maybe like 200 points. Do you think that's too low, or what do you think?
Yeah, I would say about 200 because that would put like, let's say Scott had like, I think that'd be like a top like 32 or 16 finish depending on the size of the regional.
Yeah.
And let's assume that keeps him secure. So I'd say 200 is about as good a line as any. I know there was a discussion on this in the Nugget Bridge forums, and last I checked, there wasn't really any conclusion. And I'm kind of in that same boat. It's really hard to tell. Like, there's a lot of things that could happen, especially with like those guys that are right underneath. Like if they have a bust out performance and add 120 points, and that, meanwhile like those 10 to 16 guys like stay relatively stagnant, that would shake up the points that you would need. Or if like, I don't know, like Ray and Wolf just decide to pop off and add another 120, and then Scott has like a strong performance, then he gets like 70 points, then that raises the bar even more. So like you can see where a lot of the uncertainty comes in, and it's really hard to draw a conclusion.
Yeah, definitely. But I think if you don't have already at least 120 CP, I don't know, I'm just kind of pulling that number out of the air here. But I think if you don't already have at least 120 points, it's going to be really hard for you to get up into that top 16. But yeah, so let's take a quick look at some of the people on the bubble here. In 10th place right now with 190 points, so 10 away from that 200 number that we kind of set as the minimum points needed. It's Ray Rizzo, 3-time world champion Ray Rizzo, there in 10th place, looking to get back on the podium here at Worlds. So that could be big for him going forward. In 11th place, also with 190, is Wolf Glick. In 12th place, it's Matt Sorbury, also with 190 points. And 13th is Alex Aglaza, 190 points. 14th is Matt Carter, 170. 15th is Tiffany Stanley with 170. And 16th, of course, is Scott Glaza there with 170. So those are the people who are on the right side of the bubble right now for getting those buys. We talked about this last time. Obviously, it's a very strong group there. It's tough to see any of those guys falling out.
Yeah, that's well. You had to remember though that we do have the best finish limit.
That's true.
Let's see, off the top of my head, I think the only people I know that might be getting close to that are Kamal Harris and Matt Coyle. As far as the others, I am not sure as to their status, so I don't want to make any statements that I might regret.
I want to say that Scott's been to 3 events. I know he's been to at least 2. Went to 2 sets of winter regionals there. He had to have gone to a fall one, right?
Yes, I believe he did, and I want to say he had a bad team matchup against Candy Andykins, or just Andykins. It's easy to say.
Yeah, well, there's definitely room for him to improve his score if he does well in one of the regionals here. But now let's take a look at some of the players on the wrong side of the bubble. Of course, you mentioned a couple of them already. 17th is Enosh Shakar with 160. 18th is Blake Hopper, 160 points. 19th is Devon Ingram with 160 points as well. 20th is Alex Stempe. 21st is Kamal Harris, both of those with 150 points. 22nd is Thomas Mifflin with 150. 23rd is Matthew Coyle with 150. 24th is Michael Lanzano with 140 points, and in 25th with 140 points as well is Tyler Hagan. So again, a lot of really strong players in that group of people gunning for those buys.
Yeah, not really a weak name in this group. I'm just waiting to see if any of these guys are gonna like jump out and steal like maybe those like 14 to 16 slots.
Yeah, and of course with these, it's always going to be interesting with the those premier events to see how those slot in as well. But so obviously the competition is going to be very fierce for those buys. Out of those players that I just mentioned that are outside of the 16 spot, who do you think has the best chance of breaking through into the top 16 there?
Boy, this is really tough. Oddly enough, my money is not on Anash because I know he's got some college things going on, so he may not be 100% focused on Pokemon. That's not a slam against his playing ability. It's just he's got other things going on in life.
Yeah, well, Enoch's just one of those players that can show up and finish second place in his sleep. He probably can't win because, but
Someone's
second place,
Yeah.
he can get that easily.
I'm gonna put my money on Mr. Bopper here, Blake Hopper, because he seems to be like one of those guys that just really excels in like American regional metagames. I know he like favors an offensive, generally a more offensive style. So that sort of thing is like really useful in regionals because you can shut down like a lot of those really random wins that someone might be able to get off you, like say off a rock slide flinch or whatever. Hard hitting, fast. I'm gonna put my money on him because that's the metagame that we kind of need right now.
Yeah, very good picks. I think for me, I'm looking in particular at Kamal, sitting there in the 21st spot. You said he's already been to 3, but I think he can easily improve on his past performances and bump up there. He's got the track record to prove it. He's been there, done that before. The other name I'm kind of looking at that I think has a pretty good chance of jumping up is Matthew Coyle there, sitting in the 23rd spot. Again, his track record proves itself. I think all things considered, I think he's one of the better players in that group, and I think he's got a good chance of jumping up there. But
Yep.
yeah, like I said, it's going to be fierce. I'm really excited for this set of regionals to see how they shake out. And then, of course, I'm also excited to see how those VGC 2014 Premier Challenges shake out and affect this as well. But if you keep your eyes peeled on Nugget Bridge throughout the next couple of weeks, we'll have coverage of everything regionals. Also, keep an eye out for Scott's article previewing the regionals that should be going up right before the regionals. Those are always great reads. So definitely something to look forward to there. And best of luck at the regionals for everyone going. I think that'll wrap up our regionals coverage for now, unless you have anything to add, Matt?
Nope. Just go in there, practice up, and hope for the best.
Are you going to be attending any regionals?
I will actually be, oddly enough, in Wisconsin for a regional. So I know I'll be there. Anash will be there, so it's kind of an East Coast invasion, or at least this part of the region invasion. And then it's going to be really tough at that particular regional because 616 Kamal Harris is going to be there.
He's been dominating those Midwestern regionals. It seems like forever. He's always in the top cut there.
Yeah, so just good luck, folks. You'll need it.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for asking me if I'm going to one, because I actually am. I'm so excited I was actually able to get work off. So I'll be there. I'll be in Sturbridge. Sturbridge? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it is Sturbridge.
I just consider it Boston. It's Massachusetts. But I will be there. So if you see me, come say hi. I'm really excited to be able to go. So that will be a blast and a half. But so with that, I think we'll wrap up our coverage of the spring regionals. And now let's truck right on ahead into our coverage of probably the biggest tournament that goes on NuggetBridge.com. It's the Nugget Bridge Major. So we just finished up the last round of Swiss for the Nugget Bridge Major, and Top Cut bracket was posted today. We were recording this on Monday, the 24th. And it's a pretty good bracket. We got 62 players who top cut. That, of course, was everyone that finished 6 and 2 or above. So let's take a quick look at the top seeds in the tournament. That would be everyone who finished 7 and 1 or better. I'm going to read these off in the order that they are listed on the challenge bracket there, but I'm not entirely sure how that seeding process worked because Wolfie finished really high up on the bracket there, but was seated pretty low. But regardless,
No one knows how challenge seating works.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Who can figure it out? But these are everyone that finished 7 and 1 or better in the Nugget Bridge Major, which is definitely a feat. Dingram, Devin Ingram there, Pokemaster 649, Samuel 996, Fatum, Anonymous, Lejo, Dark Assassin, Havoc, George M, R Inanimate, Count Croterich, Famous Death, Pickle Sword, Wolfie, Sapphire Birch, and Simon. There are a couple of hard usernames in there, so sorry if I butchered that there. But some pretty big names in that group there. Dingram, Pickle Sword, Wolfie, Sapphire Birch, Simon, Havoc, Fatum, R Inanimate, of course. I think that just proves how strong the field was for this Nugget Bridge Major. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with most of these names being here, or I guess problem's not the right word, but like I'm not having very many recognition issues. I'm not sure if I know who Dark Assassin is, but that's like the only one that I'm like totally in the dark. Oh, and Anonymous. I'm not quite sure who that is, fittingly enough.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before on the show. Is some of these no-name players, so to speak, are very, very strong. It seems like they're a lot stronger than they have been in past generations. So definitely, of course, obviously, these guys have all proven their worth. But you can't overlook anyone in this competition. So let's take a look at the bracket now here a little bit. What are some of the matches that you have your eye on for this tournament here?
Well, okay, so there are three in particular that really grabbed my eye. Because the way the seeding worked, I think we kind of avoided having some of those really hype matchups in the first one, but we still got some really good ones out of here. I'd say the first one that really grabbed my attention was Deflo versus R Inanimate. So we got some Germany versus Canada action going on here.
Yeah, that's a heavyweight matchup if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I haven't had the pleasure of seeing Deflo play this generation, but if you got fundamentals, you got fundamentals, and he had them last generation, that's for sure. And R Inanimate is, well, he's Randy Qua. I mean, he's amazing. He like comes to the United States, comes in top fours our regional, and says, "I'll see you in Worlds." And then
one of the most consistent players, I think, playing the game today. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
He's amazing. I've got a ton of respect for him.
Yeah, really nice guy too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And then moving on down the bracket, we got Scott, aka Scott, versus Dark Penguin 67, aka Ben Hickey. Both these guys have some Worlds experience. Dark Penguin, in particular, has a particularly good Worlds finish. Was he runner up or was he World?
I think he was runner up. I'll have to. I think he was runner up. I'm almost sure that's positive. I'm almost positive that's right.
It escapes me at the moment, but
yeah, but still, yeah, obviously a very solid player.
Yeah, I played him my round one of the Fall of Philadelphia regional, and he was pretty good. And I got a little bit of luck my way, which just made the matchup pretty easy from there. But I could tell, he knew what he was doing, and he was pretty good. And meanwhile, Scott is one of those like super consistent players. I know that he has been playing a ton of Pokemon, compared to like how he normally does, but a lot could change over 2 weeks, especially with regionals coming up. I could see him getting in shape and really giving Ben a run for his money.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Scott's one of those players that I think is just so intelligent and super analytical with the way that he plays that yeah, he can take even if he has a bad team matchup, he can kind of he could still keep himself in the game like that. And Dark Penguin can do that as well. I don't want to say that he doesn't play like that, but Scott's one of those players that again that I just really have a lot of respect for. So yeah, that's definitely a match that I'm going to be keeping my eye on as well.
Yeah, and for our last matchup here, these are two players that we previously mentioned in this podcast: Andykins versus King of Mars, formerly known as King of Kongs, and he better be bald by now.
Yeah, seriously, how long has it been? 2 months?
Well, yeah, he had, just a quick refresher, he bet his hair that Zach Drokamp wouldn't make finals at Florida, and well, Zach ended up winning that regional, so
he
Gavin
stormed through that regional. He didn't drop a match until the final round. He was motivated.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to the matchup. Andykins he's one of those sleeper guys. Like, if you play the game, you know him, but if you're kind of like a guy who kind of just follows the game, you might not know who he is, but he's definitely one of those guys that he's a headache every time you play him. And then Gavin he's really good at this format. He's really good at 2014 in my opinion. So I favor Gavin slightly in this matchup, but Andykins is smart enough and he's got just enough of that loose cannon factor where I think he could upset Gavin, but statistically siding with King of Mars on this one.
Yeah, well, King Mars definitely has the track record there. I actually had the opportunity. I was matched up against him in one of the Swiss rounds there in the major, and yeah, I can confirm he's very, very good at this format. I don't think I had much of a chance at all against him. But one of the matches that I thought for sure you were going to mention here is this one that I've got my eye on. It's Crazy Snorlax versus Dubulous. I think that's how you say it. Oh, wait, that's me.
I'll give you some analysis here. So Crazy Snorlax actually, he's actually had a decent season. He did pretty well at the Virginia Regional. I think he went undefeated during Swiss, and then I want to say he either went out round 1 or round 2 of the top cut, which is very respectable. I mean, it's better than what I could say. However, his opponent's pretty scrubby. I would say pretty bad, actually. He should probably quit.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that fact at all. I still can't believe that I managed to make it through 6-2, especially in that loaded flight too. I mean, I was expecting maybe to finish 4-4. What with my new job and everything, it's just tough to find time. So I'm a little out of practice.
But hey, yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I still can't believe it. I dropped my first match, and I lost. Like I said earlier in the show, very, very handily. I had absolutely no chance whatsoever. So to bring it all the way back to win 7 or 6 out of my last 7 matches. The only one I dropped actually was to Gavin there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with my performance here. But we were both 5-2 going into that last round. I was really, really hoping that we were going to be able to face off against each other. I think that would have been a lot of fun. We could have live streamed it and done a live under the bridge.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun.
And just talk smack to each other the whole time throughout our battles.
Yeah, I probably would have let a few language things fly, but
we could have censored it. We could have taken it out in post.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Broadcasted it live and then edited it up after the fact. But of course, it wasn't meant to be, and it was disappointing to see you fall in that final round. I was hoping you'd be joining me in Top Cut.
Yeah, I got enough John's the right part of the Bible, but no excuses. I lost, and that's all there is to it.
Hey, it happens, and like I said, there was a lot of stiff competition in this Nugget Bridge Major, so definitely no shame in going 5-3, especially in that just loaded flight too. Um, but yeah, so keep it locked on Nugget Bridge for coverage of the Nugget Bridge Major. We're gonna have hopefully. I'm not sure if we're going to have a lot of streaming throughout, but I know that we're definitely going to be posting a lot of the battle videos from every round of the Nugget Bridge Major. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Also on Nugget Bridge, if you're listening to this before Wednesday the 26th, you can get your predictions in. They call it March Madness for a reason, folks. It's because of the Nugget Bridge Major. Prediction tournament going on now. You can predict all of the battles, and the winner. There's a prize for the winner, right, Matt?
Actually, there was a prize last year. I'm not super familiar with the prize this year. Do you have any information on that?
Yeah, I will tell you the prize. The winner of the prediction tournament gets a free copy from the eShop of Pokemon Trotsai.
Is that Troze or
Troze, yeah.
Yeah.
However you pronounce that word. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty awesome prize, to be honest. So you get the eShop code for the new 3DS game Pokemon Battle Troze, provided by Nintendo of Canada. So that's awesome. You definitely want to go and get your predictions in. And if you're smart at all, you'll have me out in the first round, or you have me out winning the whole thing. One of those things is definitely going to happen.
Well, I hear that our host Dubulous is he's transferring to Dayton, and he's going to blow up the brackets.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gunning for it. Who's the Duke of this situation? Let's see who I've got. I guess Fatum would be my opponent in the second round. There would be Duke in this situation.
Yeah, never bet on Duke.
Yeah, no, never bet on Duke. Always bet on Dayton. I could get behind that. I'll be an honorary flyer. But in all seriousness, what I want to hear your prediction. You don't have to go through the whole bracket, but who do you think? Give me a Final Four, and I might be putting you a little on the spot. Give me your Final Four in order of who you think has the best chances of winning, not necessarily who you think will be the Final Four.
All right, I got to put Wolfie in from that quadrant. Hard to bet against King of Mars, so that's gonna be that's two quadrants right there. I got to pick kind of a dark horse here, right? So I'm gonna pick the Dark Penguin.
Very good pick.
Because I'm gonna hope that he's got that wild card factor, and he just starts having upset after upset. I do think Scott is, on average, the better player, but I don't know. I got that gut feeling. And then the top quadrant is probably the weirdest one for me to pick, because we have guys who are relative unknowns compared to the heavyweights that I talked about before. So this is really rough. I haven't seen Simon play. He might be really good at this format. You know what? He's pretty good around this time of year. I'm going to go with Simon.
Well, I think that's a very good pick. Obviously, Simon was amongst the group that finished 7-1 there, so obviously he's pretty good at this format. I think he's proven that. But I think it's interesting looking at the bracket here. Two of the highlight matches that you mentioned, are Inanimate and Duflo and Andy Kins and King of Mars, are right next to each other on the bracket. So that's going to be a couple of heavyweight matchups there in the first two rounds. I think that the winner of whoever survives out of that group of four, I think has the best chance of winning the tournament.
I would agree very strongly with that. Although there is Stormfront and Pokemaster 649 sitting at the top of that bracket. Those guys could be like the sleep. They could be the sleepers.
Very true. It's also a little bit interesting, having to play two extremely tough matches right at the beginning of the tournament. Maybe that could be a little tiring mentally. Who knows? But I think those 4 players don't really have to worry about that, to be honest. I think, nothing more needs to be said. I think that whoever survives from that group of 4 has the best chance of winning.
Very fair. That's a very good assessment.
All right, but yeah, so keep it locked on Nugget Bridge for coverage of the Nugget Bridge Major that'll be going on here throughout the next month. We're recording this a little bit late at night, and Matt's got to go to bed pretty early, so we're going to skip the beginner segment for this episode. Sorry, guys, we'll have one on the next episode coming out in April. But moving right along, we will move on to an under the bridge staple. I think you could call it that now. It's the monthly Mon. All right, so we all know how this works by now, I hope. This is the monthly Mon where we give away a competitive VGC Pokemon, and all you have to do to have a chance to win is answer a simple trivia question. The monthly Mon for this month, we talked about it earlier in the show, it's Aegislash. So Matt, can you give us just a short little refresher? Why should our listeners want to win this Aegislash?
Well, okay. The first thing that you should see is Ghost Steel typing is phenomenal. So that's selling point number 1. Selling point number 2 is that it has base 150 stats in the attack or defense. If you can manage it well, you can have it in both stats whenever you need it. Using a combination of King Shield or switching to trigger Shield form, or outright attacking, which will cause it to shift into Blade form. It gets some pretty good moves. Shadow Ball, which has phenomenal neutral coverage, especially considering Steel types don't resist Ghost anymore. It has Sacred Sword, so it can take on things like Tyranitar, Bisharp, Kangaskhan to an extent, and it's got Flash Cannon, which is good for eliminating some of the fairies quickly, although you'll find that Shadow Ball does the same job most of the time. So, yeah. Aegislash, really good Pokemon, and don't sleep on it.
Well, I think one of the most important reasons that I can't believe you didn't mention, Aegislash is the Pokemon of kings.
Oh, the whole King Shield thing?
Yeah, well, yeah. Aegislash only recognizes and only stands by kings, so obviously it's the coolest Pokemon ever. So of course you want it, but okay. Here's the trivia question. Like I said, it's a little bit tougher this time. Maybe requires a little bit more thought. I've gotten a couple of complaints. The trivia questions are too easy. Well, let's try this one on for size. Here we go. Aegislash and its evolution family are unique in that they are the only Pokemon with the type combination of Ghost Steel. Of course, we mentioned that earlier on in the show. How many other evolution families have similarly unique typing? So a unique type combination like Ghost Steel, species of Pokemon, so evolutionary families. The number of that is what I'm looking for. For clarity's sake here, we are not considering Nidoking and Nidoqueen to be part of the same family. So don't include them in your answer. But yeah, so to submit that, you can either send us a message with the answer to either of us on Twitter. I am at DubsNB, and Matt, you are...
I am at BearsFan092.
That seems reasonable. If you don't have a Twitter account but still want to enter the competition, I guess you could call it a competition, you could send us a PM on the Nugget Bridge forums there. Again, our usernames are Dubulous and BearsFan092, respectively. So get your answers in. I'll be drawing a winner for that sometime next week. So that brings us here towards the end of our show. What other stuff is happening on Nugget Bridge that you wanted to talk about? I know there's a few local tournaments coming up.
Unfortunately, Penn State 3 was canceled, so that will no longer be happening March 29th. However, I do have some consolation tournaments for you to go to. If you're in the Philadelphia area, there's a tournament happening that day. Check out the local tournament sub forum. I know that Cinderella Story, he's a friend of mine, he's involved with that. And I know Dorian, the tournament organizer for the Philadelphia regional, will be in charge of that. And meanwhile, just not too far away in New York City, New York City Elite Four will be happening again. Another good tournament. That one will be streamed. I don't know at this time if the Philadelphia tournament will be streamed, but if you're East Coast, you have two viable options right there.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Hopefully I'll be seeing some of you guys there if I can manage to make it down. Another event I wanted to quickly mention here is the sanctioned VGC tournament going on in Stillwater, Oklahoma on March 29th. I'm just going off the post here by El Scorcho. It's a great chance to get some last-minute practice in before the spring regionals. It's a free entry tournament, but there's going to be an optional side pot for the $5 entry fee with the best finisher of those taking home the whole pot. Registration will be open all day with the tournament starting at 6 p.m. So that should be a lot of fun. This tournament, it's part of a larger two-day event that features a lot of other games like League of Legends, Magic, Super Smash Bros., Project M. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. So that sounds like a lot of fun. If you're near the Stillwater, Oklahoma area, that's going on March 29th. You can get more information about that on the Nugget Bridge forums there. Other than that, was there anything else? Oh, I did want to talk about this. With Pokebank out, a lot of people have been going back to using their Generation 5 games to get some Pokemon that they don't have access to with these Generation 6 games. Well, Nintendo just recently announced they will be discontinuing online support for DS and Wii titles starting May 20th, 2014. So at that time, you'll be unable to transfer Pokemon from your Generation 5 games to Pokebank.
That's actually not quite correct.
Is it? I'm sorry. Please correct me.
Okay, you will not be able to use the Wi-Fi portions of those games. So you cannot do multiplayer. You cannot do online trading. However, because of the way Pokebank works, it actually reads directly from your save file, and then it uses a 3DS Wi-Fi connection from there. So you will still be able to do that. What you won't be able to do is download things from PokeCheck. So unless there's some additional server magic that they have that we don't know yet, PokeCheck will be unavailable for direct download starting May 20th.
Yeah, so again, that's May the 20th. They'll be discontinuing the Wi-Fi connection support for Nintendo DS and Wii titles. So I thought that just deserved a quick mention there.
Yeah, but more importantly, you will not be able to play Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and even more importantly, Metroid Prime Hunters and Mario Kart DS.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Mario Kart 7 there? Mario Kart DS. 7's for the 3DS, of course.
Yeah, of course. Mario Kart DS was like my favorite Mario Kart game, so I'm a little sad to see that go. And Metroid Prime Hunters was like my first shooter, so I'm also sad. So if anyone wants to play me over these next couple of months, let me know.
Me too. I played so much Mario Kart DS. I think I 3-starred every single cup and competition I could go on. I could wax poetic for hours about that game. Of course, we don't have the time to do that here. We're approaching an hour with this show. So how about that? We went a little long this time, even though we didn't have that beginner segment. But anyway, so I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. We'll start to wrap this up here. Please don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Again, I'm at DubsNB, and Matt, you are
at BearsFan092.
Can never plug that more than enough. Matt, are you still doing your streaming on Twitch?
Yes. Things are getting a little bit weird with regionals and whatnot. Because it's that odd stepping stone between secrecy and wanting to put on a show. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing exactly this coming Thursday. I know I will be doing something. I just hadn't figured out what. All
right. But after regionals, you can expect to pick that up again with more fervor, I imagine, right?
Yes.
So keep an eye out for that. A lot of people are streaming at various points on Nugget Bridge, so just keep an eye out there on the forums there. You can see exactly who is streaming just right on the homepage of the forums there. Nice, neat feature. Other than that, I think that'll just about do it So until next month, thanks for listening, and remember, don't feed the trolls.
This has been a Nugget Bridge Radio Network production. For more information about our podcasts and in-depth analysis of the VGC circuit, visit www.nuggetbridge.com.